When market freedom is advocated, one thought which springs to many minds is the fear of unchecked monopolies running amok, trampling the rights of the little fellow, and ruthlessly driving any would-be competitors to the wall. It is widely held that without strict government control, such monopolies would proliferate and virtually enslave the economy. Theoretically, there are two kinds of monopoly: market monopoly and coercive monopoly. A coercive monopoly maintains itself by the initiation of force, or the threat of force, to prohibit competition, and sometimes to compel customer loyalty. A market monopoly has no effective competition in its particular field, but it can't prevent competition by using physical force. A market monopoly can't gain its ends by initiating force against anyone, its customers, competitors, or employees, because it has no legal power to compel people to deal with it and to protect itself from the consequences of its coercive actions. The initiation of force would frighten away business associates and alarm customers into seeking substitute products, doing without altogether, or in the case of entrepreneurs setting up a competing business to attract other dissatisfied customers. So the initiation of force by a market monopoly, far from helping it to attain its ends, would give it a quick push onto the short, downhill road to oblivion. Because it does not initiate force, a market monopoly can only attain its monopoly status by excellence in satisfying consumer wants and by the economy of its product and or service, which necessitates efficient business management. Furthermore, once it has attained this monopoly position, it can only hold it by continuing to give excellent service at economical prices, and the freer the economy, the more this rule holds true. If the managers of the monopoly become careless and raise their prices above market level, some other entrepreneur will see that he can undersell them and still make tremendous profits and will immediately move to enter their field. Then their potential competition will become actual competition. Large and well-established companies are particularly likely to offer such competition since they have large sums to invest and prefer to diversify their efforts into new fields in order to have a wide financial base. In a free society where large companies were not plundered of what bureaucrats like to think of as their excess profits via heavy taxation, any monopoly which raised its prices above market level or became careless about the quality of its service would be virtually creating its own competition too strong for it to drive out. As it is always the rule in an unhampered market, the illness would create its own cure. The market is self-regulating. Not only are market monopolies no threat to anyone, the whole concept of monopoly, as commonly held, is in error. A monopoly is supposed to be a business which has, quote, exclusive control of a commodity or service in a given market, or control that makes possible the fixing of prices and the virtual elimination of free competition, unquote. That's from Webster. A market monopoly cannot prevent competition from entering its field because it cannot use coercion against would-be competitors, and thus it can never have that exclusive control that makes possible the fixing of prices. Nor can such a monopoly be said to be free of competition, even while it has exclusive control of its market. Its product must still compete for the consumer's money with every other good and service. For example, suppose a manufacturer of travel trailers has a complete monopoly over the travel trailer industry. He still must compete for the recreation dollar with the motel industry, and in a broader sense with the manufacturers of pleasure boats, swimming pools, table tennis sets, etc. Nor does his competition end there. Because the consumer may choose to spend his money for something other than recreation, our travel trailer monopolist must compete indirectly with refrigerator companies, clothing manufacturers, colleges, etc. ad infinitum. There is no industry so basic that a monopolist in that industry could manage the virtual elimination of free competition. Even the steel industry must compete in the building materials field with lighter metals, wood, plastic, concrete, brick, and now even newly developed glass products. In considering the concept of monopoly, it's also useful to remember that it's not the absolute size of the firm which counts, but the size of the firm relative to its market. In the 1800s, the little country grocery store had a far firmer control of its market than does the largest chain of big city supermarkets today. Advances in ease and economy of transportation continually decrease the relative size of even the most giant firm, thus making even temporary market monopoly status vastly more difficult to attain. So the free market moves toward the elimination rather than the encouragement of monopolies. Since a market monopoly can never eliminate free competition or fix prices in defiance of the law of supply and demand, it actually bears no resemblance at all to the common notion of the ruthless and uncontrolled monopoly so many people have been taught to fear. If the term market monopoly can have any meaning at all, it can only be understood as a company which has gained a position as the only supplier of its particular good or service because customer wants are well satisfied, and its prices are so low that it's not profitable for competitors to move into that particular field. its monopoly position will most likely not be permanent because eventually someone else will probably build a better mousetrap and go into competition with it. But during the period of its market power, it is never free of competition or of the law of supply and demand in regards to prices. It is easy to see that a market monopoly, because it cannot initiate force, poses no threat to either individual persons who deal with it or the economy as a whole. But what about a coercive monopoly? A coercive monopoly has exclusive control of a given field of endeavor in which is closed to and exempt from competition, so that those controlling the field are able to set arbitrary policies and charge arbitrary prices, independent of the market. A coercive monopoly can maintain this exclusive control, which prohibits any competition only by the use of initiated force. No firm which operated in a free market context could afford the initiation of force for fear of driving away its customers and business associates. Thus, the only way that a business firm can sustain itself as a coercive monopoly is through government intervention in the form of special grants of privilege. Only government, which is itself a coercive monopoly, has the power to force individuals to deal with a firm with which they would rather not have anything to do. The fear of ruthless, uncontrolled monopolies is a valid one, but it applies only to coercive monopolies. Coercive monopolies are an extension of government, not a product of the free market. Without governmental grants of special privilege, there could be no coercive monopolies. Economic exploitation by monopolies, cartels, and big business is a non-existent dragon. In a well-developed market which is free of government interference, any advantage gained from such exploitation will send out signals calling in competition, which will end the exploitation. In a free market, the individual always has alternatives to choose from, and only physical force can compel him to choose against his will. But the initiation of force is not a market function, and cannot be profitably employed by firms operating in an unregulated market. Force, in fact, is penalized by the free market, as is fraud. Business depends on customers, and customers are driven away by the exploitation of force and fraud. The penalizing of force and fraud is an inherent part of the self-regulating mechanism of the free market. The market, if not hampered by government regulation, always moves towards a situation of stability and maximum consumer satisfaction, that is, toward equilibrium. Government intervention, far from improving society, can only cause disruptions, distortions, and losses, and move society toward chaos. The market is self-regulating. Force is not required to make it function properly. In fact, the imposition of initiated force is the only thing which can prevent the market from functioning to the maximum possible satisfaction of all. If men aren't free to trade in any non-coercive way in which their interests dictate, they aren't free at all. Men who aren't free are, to some degree, slaves. Without freedom of the market, no other freedom is meaningful. For this reason, the conflict between freedom and slavery focuses on the free market and its only effective opponent, government.